Hi, everybody, and welcome to Empowering with Knowledge. And I would like to welcome you to our very first broadcast. My name is Loretta, and I am your host for today. Empowering through knowledge was brought about from the scripture Hosea 4:6, where God says in his word that my people perish for lack of knowledge. And I said, how can God's people perish in a day and time when there's the internet? So I began to search and research and read over this COVID season while I was stuck in the house for 14 days. And so we came up with the show, Empowering Through Knowledge. So what we're going to do is we're going to kick off our first show talking about making that transition back to the US or wherever your home country may be. We're going to first start by welcoming our guest, Mr. Robert Carter. We want to thank Robert, which is also known as Bobby. We're going to thank Bobby for joining us today. And Mr. Robert, he has written a book, Coming Home, a Repatriate's Guide for Expats. And he's also a registered representative with New York Life Insurance. Welcome, Bobby. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. So we're going to start out today by jumping straight in talking about your book. So can you tell us a little bit about your book that you wrote about and first off, what made you even write the guidebook for going back to the States?
I wrote the book because even as a financial services professional, I was caught off guard with moving home. And I know people talking about, oh, you have to adjust, but nobody actually goes into detail about the adjustments and what you have to do. And there are so many things you have to do when you move home and prepare. And it's just like, it can be very overwhelming, especially since, we have a wife and a 7-year-old. And Renee and Carter say, hey, by the way. So it was just a number of things. And everyone I talked to that came home before me when I was, saying, hey, did you have to deal with these things? And they were like, yeah. And everybody said, yeah, it was one of those things where they didn't get back on their feet until a year and a half, being home a year and a half. And this is people with money that save. This is people without money to save. It was a similar story because even though you might be saving, if you don't have a proper plan in place or an idea of what you're going to do, you can get lost in spending money on things you don't necessarily need and timelines, et cetera. So that's the reason I put the book together. And it focuses really on 3 different parts: preparation, making a budget before you even decide to go home. Have a plan, have a budget. Some people like to say, well, I'm not going home until next year, so I'll buy the book a month or 2 before I leave. No, no. This preparation is well a year, 6 months to a year in advance type of preparation. Because you don't realize like everything that you have to do. Like first, you have to create a plan before you even go, create a budget,
Mhm.
decide where you want to live, where you're going to
Right,
work,
right.
how are you going to work. As an expat in the UAE, you don't pay taxes. You might
That
have
part.
they might have
Yeah, right.
implemented that on things that you purchase, but when your paycheck is 16,000 dirhams or 20,000 dirhams,
Yeah,
that's what you get in your bank account. When you come
right.
home, when your paycheck is $5,000 a month, you might actually get $3,500 a month. you
True,
know,
true, true.
and as an expat, most places that you're living is paid for by your employer, whether paid in part or partially or whole. When you come home, that's an expense that you have to deal with by yourself or by your
So would
family.
you I'm sorry. So would you say when you're planning to go home, I would think that it would be a good idea to kind of look at the market of where you want to
Yes,
live?
yes,
And I would say save at least 3 months worth of rent plus your first and last month security deposit. Would you agree or would you recommend more?
I recommend more. Financial Advising 101 says to save 3 months of salary. As an
Right.
expat, and as part of my book, as an expat, you need to save 6 months of salary because
Wow.
you're dealing with that transition. What a lot of people don't realize is when you're an expat, sometimes the country, you might not get paid for a month or two, but then they give you like a big lump sum to make up for it. When you come
Mhm.
home, your paycheck is just going to be your first paycheck, unless
Right.
you are blessed enough to be working for a company to give you an advance or some type of signing bonus. Your
Right.
paycheck is that. You don't have a expense allowance for furniture. You don't have an expense allowance for deposits. You have to pay if you're buying a house. Most likely, you're gonna have to put money down because you probably don't have any credit.
Right.
Um, if you're renting an apartment, you haven't had any rental history for the last 4 to 6 or however many years you've been gone. So you're gonna have to put, like you said, first month's rent and probably maybe even last month's rent to get a proper place. So look at the market, see where you want to live,
Mhm.
research the cost of living, like housing, the cost of buying a car, etc. I know plenty of people in the UAE, they didn't even have a car. When you come home, in most places, you have to have transportation.
And since we're talking about cars, that leads me into what we were talking about earlier before we logged on is the credit because getting an apartment or either buying a house or any of those things require a credit check. For most of us, or for many of us, we've been out of country for a while. Whether we're in the UAE or anywhere, when we're out of country, our credit is not constantly we're not constantly working on growing our credit scores. How does that impact us, or what do you recommend that we should do in order to prepare for that transition home before we go home to start building that credit score?
um, Work on it now. You know the the beautiful thing about being an expat in over there was the credit card that we got had like great benefits and perks and miles. So you tend to cut off your credit cards at home. Well, when you come back, you have to start building that up. So apply now. Look at your credit report. You can get it for free from some sites. I know Experian, you can get it for free, or even I want to say a small membership fee that you can pay and cancel because that's what I did. Not saying you should do that, but I used it for what I needed. I didn't need to keep going with it. Some other ones, there are some free sites. I know like some people use Credit Karma, some people use Nerd Wallet. Those are sites to use and look at because not only do they say, okay, here's what your credit score is, but here are some credit cards that you may actually be pre-approved for. And then here's like an actual chance, a percentage of your approval rating.
Right.
Um, and then so some people you may contact if you've got a bank at home, contact your bank ask them, if you do have a decent credit score, contact your bank and say, hey, look, I'm looking at getting a credit card. Your banks have different credit cards and different perks. And as an account owner with your home bank, they might give you some different incentives that some other card companies might not. So there are a number of different ways and avenues. The key is pull up your credit report, see what it is, go ahead and establish a credit card if you don't have any. If you do have credit cards, that's great. If they're in default, try to pay those off and pay more than the minimums.
Yeah.
Pay more than the minimums. And I'm not a credit expert, but I can tell you when you have a credit card, try to get your balance under 30% of usage. So if you've got a $10,000 credit card, try to keep it under $3,000. If you got $1,000 credit card, try to keep it under 300. That's one of the strategies of building your credit. So those are some things to look at with that. So yeah.
Awesome. So one of the questions that I have for you, and I'm sure this is one that others may have that are watching us right now. If you could give me the top 3 things that a person needs to do to prepare for their journey home, what would it be? It was in 3 parts. So preparation.
Top 3 things. We talked about the 6-month salary. That is number 1, because you don't want to get in a situation where you can't put a deposit on your rent, your lights, phone bill, your gas bill, your water bill, down payment on a car.
Right.
Second one is your credit cards. We talked about it, but it kind of goes into the first one, because if you do not have transportation, you have to, and I touch on it in my book, you're going to have to rent a car. Although you can rent a car with debit cards, a lot of places require 2 months or 2 utility bills. If you don't even have an apartment, you don't have a utility bill. If you're just moving back, those utility bills don't, you're not going to get that letter for a month or 2. It has to go through the cycle. And then so that's a major thing, because that was a very big hassle having a car. And we live in the country, so so we needed transportation. So I did not have a credit card, and I had to build up my credit within 30 days. I had to build it up very quickly so that we could have a car to rent. And then very important, be patient and anchor yourself in a community and a place of worship, because you're going to need help. You're going to need assistance. It might be a little, might be a lot, but you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. You're going to be happy. Most people are happy to be home, but there are going to be so many ups and downs that you're going to need that guidance and just that community of being around people. Because again, a lot of people, it took 1.5 years as an average to help them get on their feet. So, and please don't get caught up trying to keep up with the Joneses. Just because your friends are doing this and that, or your family's doing this and that, or somebody came home and they may have bought a couple of houses, or did whatever their situation is, that's their story. Be patient and make a plan. When we came home, we had to deal with a lot. We did not have much. I'll be honest. I had 3 pair of shoes. A pair of running shoes, a pair of work shoes, and some cowboy boots. Right. 3 pair of shoes. Now, and what is it, 1 year and a month later, we're good to go. We've got a truck. Our son is happy, or my wife is happy. Got a closet full of things. We gave away some clothes. We'll probably go give them some more away for Thanksgiving this weekend for charity. We've been giving clothes away, and just long story short, we had very little. Now we have abundance. So just don't try to keep up with the Joneses. You will get your abundance in due time. That is because I've seen some people try and do that, and they just dug themselves in a hole, and it's like, it's already hard to deal with. So, don't dig yourselves in that hole. Be patient.
And that leads me into the next question, the mental impact of making that transition. I have a friend who's here visiting with me from the States, and we went out to dinner today, and I was like, I just don't know how. We went to Tingari.
No.
Yeah, we would have some. Oh yeah, we wouldn't have oxtails today. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it going back home. And and as she's looking around, she keeps saying, "Wow, it's just so much. It's so much diversity here. There's so many different people. I can't tell what race this person is. I can't tell what nationality this person is." And it's kind of it really. So the question is, what is the mental impact or mentally, how did you deal with that? And even if you don't mind share, even Carter, because Carter came from a really diverse group of kids at school to go to a school with everyone kind of being like him.
Right.
So what was the mental impact of that transition?
It's a culture shock. I can tell you because with Carter, he had 14 different languages spoken in his school. Now it's just English. He doesn't even have any Spanish kids in his class. So, and again, we are in the country, so that's one of the reasons why. But it is a cultural shock because you're dealing with people who are from all walks of life, who have different views, whether it's on business, lifestyle, religion, etc. And then you come back home, and it's generally one of three mindsets. It's everything is, I'll be honest, a lot of stuff is, it depends on where you go. Some stuff is black and white. Some stuff is, we did hear we're hearing some horror stories about, and I know everything that's going on with like racial injustice. It's not an everyday thing. We haven't actually run into it ourselves personally. But when stuff like Ahmaud Arbery happened, that was one of the things of, it was like, wow, this is reality for myself, for my wife, and for my son, to actually have to deal with that. Again, we haven't had a lot of that, but emotionally that did take a toll, and we had to, again, that's where you have to get your community, get your friends, because we had to really, luckily I'm a Omega animation. So, happy Founders Day.
Happy Founders Day.
I know it's still Achievement Week. It's still Achievement Week. So luckily I had some brothers here that I could, talk to and rally and just behind and mentally just like get in order and like, okay, this is what we deal with. This is the new reality, because the UA, I think what was number one city, the number one safest city, like 3 out of 4 years.
Yes.
You go from that and having to worry about, am I going to make it home at night type of thing. Just for going on a jog, so it is a toll. So build that community, build your faith, find a place of worship where you can go and release everything and have some come to Jesus moments, or whatever your religion is. Really, like faith is very, very important to deal with that emotional part of coming home and that cultural difference.
Yes, it is. And that was part of that's always part of the journey, is understanding and your faith, and having your faith walk, and having your faith in your faith walk, and making sure that you have some sense of community. Even when we was here, that's even under the pretenses that we met, was that you came to the church, you and your wife came to Loving Grace. And if we don't know anything else, we know that building a community and building faith is very important for our well-being and for our mental health. I totally have to agree with you on that. You being, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. Okay, you being a representative of the New York Life um, insurance people, um, one of the questions that, well, you was here with us, and one of the things that we seen was people didn't have life insurance,
Mm.
or people who passed away, and we were trying to figure out how to get them home, and so you were here with us, and of course, the question always lingered is, does my insurance policy cover me outside of the country? So can you give us a little insight into the insurance market and to the other side of the house in which you're working in right now, and any recommendations for those who are expats who, God forbid, may need some additional assistance?
Get it now. And if you don't have it, get it now. I'll be honest, I'm tired of seeing GoFundMe's. It's sad to see that, but it's a reality that we live in. Some policies do pay while you're overseas. Every policy is different. Every company is different. You can even have different provisions for different companies for different policies. So if you do have insurance, the first thing to do would be to contact your insurance company and ask them, hey, if I live overseas and something were to happen to me, would this policy pay out? Some of them it will. Some of them will say no. Some of them will say, well, because I know I had applied for insurance before I moved over there, and they found out I was moving overseas, and they had issued the insurance and everything, found out I was moving overseas. They were like, oh no, if you're overseas for more than 90 days, we can't insure you. Some companies, it's not an issue. Once that policy is issued, they don't care. You're covered anywhere in the world, unless you're in a country that, war torn state, or a country that's a high conflict state. Unless you're in one of those countries, if you're in one of those countries, it's hard to get coverage, to be honest, outside of your job. There are some companies that will, but it's very hard. Please get insurance when you come home as well. And it's one of those things of, yes, you have insurance through your job, but get insurance outside of your job. Because if something were to happen and your job were to let you go, let's say you got sick. There were issues where expats got sick. Their company let them go or fired them. When they let them go, their insurance was gone as well. Well, with that insurance gone, they passed away, and their family didn't have any money to handle their burial and to repatriate their body back home. And for those that don't know, repatriation means you're moving back home or to go back to your native country. So research it. As I wish I could sell everyone insurance overseas, but if you're overseas, I can't. When you come home, we can definitely talk about it. And even though I can't sell to you, if you just have some questions, you want to review what you have, I'm more than happy to review it for you. Again, if you're overseas, I can't sell you anything, but I'm more than happy to help you and give you some guidance, tell you what you have. Because a lot of times, people don't even know what they actually have. So, but the bottom line is, please get insurance, look at what you have, review what you have. If you have an advisor, go over with them. If not, contact me. I'll be more than happy to go over with you. My direct cell phone is 404-353-5522. That is my WhatsApp number as well.
Hold on, can you say that again so I can put it on the screen?
404-353-5522.
Okay, so I'm going to add that on the screen.
Yep, thank you. And also, another thing when moving home, a lot of people don't realize that they have a retirement plan at home, or they left their retirement plan at home, or it's sitting there. Call up and get the documents of that plan and review what you have with that retirement plan as well. Because when you're going into a new job or a new career, you might have a number of options that I can't go over on this call. I actually have a Zoom call later on in December that I'm going to go over, but you might have some opportunities where you can roll that over into a new company plan or some other plans that might be more beneficial for you, depending on what your financial risk tolerance and actual goals are. Or that might be a situation where you have some emergency money that people don't think about, and now there are some taxable situations, et cetera, that I can't really give tax advice, but look at any retirement plans that you have that may be outstanding with your companies that you have left previously. The plans don't go away. A lot of times people think, oh, well, I left that plan like 5 years ago. Well, if you're vested, and being vested means you own the plan. If you're vested in that plan, whether partially or whole, the plan doesn't go away. Something has to happen with that money. So take a look at it, review it, call that company, find out what you have, because that is another source that you can use.
Thank you so much, Bobby. We're going to take a quick minute and we're going to take a quick break to showcase our businesses of the month. And after we get finished showcasing our businesses of the month, we're going to come back to you and we're going to open it up to a Q&A session for those who are watching us. So if you have any questions, take a couple minutes to get your questions prepared. You can type them in any of the chat groups, and then I'll ask Bobby your questions and he'll answer your questions for you. So we'll just give a couple minutes and we'll be right back. It looks like Robert chimed in just in time, so we're going to jump Robert into the conversation. So then we'll come back for Q&A now that Robert's jumped in. Robert's here with us. Let's see if we can fix this thing. Yay! Hey, Rob. Here we are. Now we're all here together. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are watching with us, I would like to introduce Mr. Robert McDonald, also known as Rob. We have two Roberts, Robert Bobby, Robert Rob. We were going to introduce Mr. Rob. He is the owner of Panther Financial Services. And Rob was here in the UAE. He went home, I think, last year. And so maybe 2 years ago, it's been 2 years. So Rob can share a little bit of information with us about the financial transition, those tax returns, and all the information about what we need to do to prepare financially to make that transition home. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
All right. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. It's always good to connect with people back in the UAE. So I'm honored. As Pastor said, taxes. Make sure you have your taxes filed. We've run into a lot of people trying to come back or getting ready to come back, and the first thing a lot of people want to do is buy a house. They want to buy a house, and if you don't have those tax returns filed, you're not going to be able to do it, because that's what the mortgage companies are going to want to see is your tax returns. Also, I always just say it's a good thing to keep your taxes current because you just never know. This year, with the stimulus money, there was a whole lot of questions about the stimulus money. Are we going to get the stimulus money if we're overseas? And this and that. And at first, no one had a definite answer on that. But it came out that if you're an American citizen, you file your taxes, you got $1,200 in and the $500 for any dependents that you had. So if you haven't filed your taxes for 2019, I advise you to do so very quickly, because they're going to stop giving that money out if they haven't already. So yeah, and I was, it's always that it's not that you're going to have to pay money necessarily, because most people don't have to pay anything. You just need to file. Just file. That's all you need to do. And I tell people the mistake that they make is the first year when you go to Abu Dhabi or wherever, and you've worked half a year in the States, it's a good chance that you're going to get a refund back if you file within the 3 years, because after 3 years, that third year, they're not going to give you that money at that point. The IRS won't give you that money. So I came over in 2011. I did file my taxes and got a refund, but if I would have waited, I would have missed out on that money. And that's what happens a lot, because people will wait till they get ready to leave and then file 5 years of tax returns. So make sure if you're new to the UAE, or you've been there one or 2 years and you haven't filed your taxes since you've been there, you need to file those taxes from that first year that you were there, because you were working in the States as a teacher or whatever it may be, so you still get credit because you pay taxes for that half a year or however long you were there. Already had a question?
Well, yes, it was. I actually did, because I hadn't thought about the need to file taxes to buy your house. I had not thought about that. And I'm sure there's people who are here or are working abroad that are saving money in order to buy a house when they get home, and just kind of thinking that in the concept they live abroad don't have to file taxes. So that was a good nugget that you just shared with everybody. So if you're planning to buy a house when you go home, make sure you file your taxes and get those tax returns completed, so that you'll be able to purchase your house when you get home. I also think it was good that you shared about that first year, because when I came in 2007, I also filed it. And when I went home, we filed for that extension the first year. And then after that, I had to wait for the year or something, and then we were able to file, and I was able to get the tax return as well in that year. So you really shared some really nuggets. Thank you so much for that. One of the things that Bobby and I had spoken about earlier was how much would you say put away in order to prepare for that transition home? Bobby and I thought about last month's rent, maybe 3 months worth of rent. Bobby was like, that's not enough. No, you need more. So tell us, Robert, as a financial advisor as well, what would you say the ideal number for a person to have when they get ready to go home, to prepare for that journey home?
That's going to be hard, and I say that it's kind of like having a baby. You think you're unprepared, but you're never prepared, or you never have enough. And it's the same way. I mean, you can set a number. You can say 20, 30,000, 40,000, and when you get here, I mean, things happen. One of the things that I think, well, I don't know if I would tell Charlotte this, that I messed up on, is we sold everything. We sold pretty much everything when we left from Abu Dhabi, and we did bring home some stuff. But in hindsight, we would have kept the furniture, we would have kept and just paid that to have it shipped over. Because when you get back here, it's kind of like when you get to Abu Dhabi. When you get to Abu Dhabi, you come there with 2 suitcases, and you got to go out and you got to buy everything. We got to buy silverware, you got to buy Tupperware or whatever. And it's the same thing starting out. When you're dropping thousands of dollars because you need a bedroom set for the kids, furniture for living room, kitchen stuff. all that adds up, and then it depends on your taste, what kind of stuff you like. Do you want to go to IKEA, or do you want to go, Walmart, or you want to go somewhere top notch? And a lot of us are probably in the middle somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So to actually put a number on it, I think it's hard. I think it's going to be up to that individual because you know your lifestyle and what you want. Buying a car, and I think Bobby and I we were talking about this yesterday. When you get back, you don't have a car, you might have to rent a car or something. But when you go out and you try to buy a car, we had to buy 2 cars when we got here. And then furnish everything else, and traveling and all that when you first get back. I mean, that eats up a lot of money. And then when you settle in, let's say turn off.
Okay, there it goes. I think that fixed it.
Okay.
In the chat box, everyone is putting there's an echo when I talk, so I think maybe you have your speaker on and it's coming back from your computer. Bobby's muted.
Turn mine down. All right. Is that better?
I think so. I don't hear myself. So I think it's better.
Okay.
Yeah, Bobby is better.
Yeah. So, it kind of depends. I just say, just have something. Just start saving something. It would be ideal. They say have 6 months worth of salary saved up. But coming from over there, starting off new, you might need to have a year's salary saved up, if possible, or something like that. The more, the better. The better. So,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I like what you said about shipping the furniture home. I think that's something that for a lot of us here, we don't think about. We typically go through the house and we just sell off everything. And I think you're right about that, shipping the furniture home, because that is a great springboard, especially if you already have a place and you know where you're going. That's kind of a great springboard to set yourself up in a place so you don't have to buy the furniture. You don't have to buy a brand new bedroom set. Because things are a little cheaper here than they are at home. Some of the furniture is a little cheaper here than it is at home. So I think that was a great nugget that you shared with us as well, Robert. I asked Bobby earlier, and so now I'm going to ask you the same question. What would be your top 3 things that you would tell people to do in order to prepare for that journey back home?
The first thing, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. You talk to people, and the first thing people say for educators, they want to come out of the classroom. They don't want to go back in the classroom when they come back. But what are you doing now to prepare yourself so you won't be in the classroom? Are you applying for jobs now, or are you just waiting? Because what happens is we get complacent and comfortable, and we kind of forget. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, but we never make steps to actually doing something for that plan. So you have to have a plan on what you want to do, and is it obtainable within the time frame? You have to set a time frame, because your money gonna run out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can only survive so long on the money before you need to start bringing in more money. So that would be the main thing. You have to have a plan. Number 2, when you come back, things are going to be different. The experiences that you had in the UAE, the traveling, all that's going to change. For the most part, it's going to change. And your friends that you had, those close friends, they might not understand that. They might think that you're bragging, or things like that. So you might lose some friends, or I won't say lose, but you're not going to be as close, because they're not going to be able to relate to the common things that you were doing over there, where people here think that you just balling. and getting on a yacht, renting a yacht was nothing. So that's something that you have to think about too, is how those friendships and relationships are going to work out, because it is, you have been over there, and so things are different. The third thing about coming back that I would say is you just got to stay focused. You got to stay focused. And I kind of went blank from the question that you asked, but
The top three.
the top three, and you just got to get acclimated back to being in the States. I mean, that's it. Just like how you had to get acclimated to being in the UAE, you got to get acclimated to being back, because from the time that you left here to the time that you come back, things have changed. Things have changed. So, and don't be afraid to go out and adventure. If you're from Atlanta, I mean, you might not go back to Atlanta. You might end up in Dallas. I know there's a lot of people in Dallas. I mean, you got to go where you're going to be able to survive and live. I know it's been hard. It's been hard on us, because being here in San Antonio, I mean, Charlotte's from here, but she hadn't lived here forever. So it's like we're just new to San Antonio. I mean,
Right.
If it was up to us, we would have went back to Houston. But with her mom being ill, so we had to come back here, and it's like we don't have nobody here. No friends, no. And it's just different, just trying to, and then with the whole COVID thing, it's just hard to go out and meet people and do things. So our network, I guess you can say, is very, very small here. We keep in contact with a lot of friends that we made, overseas and things like that, because we just don't have it here.
So one of the questions that I'm glad you kind of brought me into this, as well as Bobby did earlier, the mental impact, the mental. How would you tell someone to prepare for that mental transition? Because I was sharing with Bobby earlier. I have a friend that's here visiting with me. We've been friends for over 20 years, and her and I we went to Tingaree today to have lunch. And I was telling her, I don't know how I'm going to transition back to the States. And can you share something or share with us how to mentally prepare for that transition?
I think it's the same thing. When we got to Abu Dhabi, you weren't in the States no more. You had to live by Abu Dhabi rules. And it's the same thing when you come back. When we got back, nothing compares to Abu Dhabi. Nothing compares. You can talk. People are like, "Oh, they're gonna have this party or something at a hotel or something." You're like, it's just a Marriott. It's just whatever. Or
it's not the same.
No,
yeah,
no
it's
say.
not the same. We went to a brunch. Went to the Alpha Derby last year, and they had a brunch. And when you go to brunches in Abu Dhabi, it's just a little different. It's just a little different. And you're like, okay, here we go. Then we have to remember we're not in Abu Dhabi, and you always catch yourself. I mean, after 2 years, we still catch ourselves comparing stuff to Abu Dhabi and Thailand and all the other places we went, and then we had to realize we aren't there. So mentally, it's hard. It's hard. It's been difficult not having a nanny. I ain't even gonna lie. It's hard. It's hard. And even on Chloe, we get on her nerves, and she'd be like, "I wish we had Rona. Rona gonna let her do whatever." But it's just mentally, it's just hard. It's like I tell people living in Abu Dhabi was like living in at Disney. It's a fairy tale. And when you come out, and come back to the States, you aren't in that fairy tale no more.
Yeah, I certainly understand.
You aren't in that fairy tale because, like you said, mentally it's hard. It's a struggle. It's a struggle every day with something, from politically, just being African American male, what you have to, the risk of being pulled over by the police. You just don't know. When we first got back, I was going to Houston, and I got pulled over. And I got pulled over for having a license plate cover over my license plates, although I was speeding, but that's what he said. He did let me go over the warning, but I mean, as soon as I called Charlotte and told her I got pulled over, she's like, "Are you all right? You all right?" It's just things are different, and there's so much going on here that we didn't have to experience, I guess, or we didn't have to deal with when we were there. So that whole mental part of it is hard. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it, because we're going to always compare sometimes back to the UAE as we did when we were in the UAE, but we didn't have to do this in the States. We didn't have to do this back home. So just trying to get that out of your mind, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time after you've been there. I mean, we were there. Well, I was there for seven years, and you've been there longer. So I'm sure there's other people. It's just going to be hard, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and I think that's part of I can say at this point as a pastor, before you make that transition home, definitely make sure that you've prayed up, that you've planned up, that you fasted, that you know for sure, for certain, that you're going to where God has said and place your feet, and make sure that you stay in his promises and what he promised you to do. So as in making that transition, that transition, while it definitely is going to be mentally challenging, I shared with my friend earlier today, it's challenging to me when I go home and I pull up to the gas pump and I have to get out and pump my own gas.
I've got the funny story. This is when we were still living in Abu Dhabi. We came home to visit, and we're at the gas station, and I'm like, I got to pump my own gas. We sat there for a minute. I'm like, I got to pump my own gas. Now, I've grown up, had no problem pumping gas. That's how, when I was single, that's how I would meet women. I would go pump their gas. So I'm sitting there like, why do I have to do this? And so I get out and pump the gas, and miraculously, I can't remember what, I think he might have been Saudi Arabian. Saudi Arabian guy, he's getting out, and he's like, what's the attendant? I'm like, you got to pump it yourself. He's like, what? I was like, I know. He's like, I sat in my car for like 5 minutes waiting for somebody to come out. And it was like, yeah. And it was just like, it was so funny. It was interesting that we were both dealing with the same thing. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to transition. We have about 10 minutes left. So for the last 10 minutes, we're going to transition into our Q&A session. I'm going to shoot the questions up on the screen so everybody has the opportunity to see the question. And so I think they're kind of both for either one of you. So whichever one of you want to answer, you can go ahead and you can jump in. This one is from Sarah. She's asking about using high-yielding savings account to save additional money or income on the side, or is there a better type of account?
Wouldn't say there's a better type of account. You need to speak with, a lot of times I hate to say you have to speak with an advisor because it depends on what your risk tolerance is as far as what you can invest in. Some high yield savings accounts right now, regardless of the country you're in, are only earning around 1 or 2%. They're not really, some are earning 0.65. So I remember, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Goldman Sachs had a high yield savings account of 0.65%. I can't remember the date. So that's something to look at, but also look at other investments where you might be able to get a little bit more compounded interest, or a little bit more, you might have to take a little bit more risk, to get that reward. It just really depends on your risk tolerance. By risk tolerance, what I mean is how much can you invest without adversely affecting your lifestyle or your account. And in order to find one, a lot of banks have free ones that you can use. If you want to contact me, we have a program that we can do for it. But there are a lot of places that you can go to find it out, whether for free. But I recommend sitting down with somebody to see what you can invest in to get the most bang for your buck.
Rob, did you want to add anything to that? Or?
That's outside of my realm. I'll let Bobby handle that one.
Good answer.
What Bobby said.
Bobby said, right?
Right.
We have another question. This one is from Natasha. And Natasha is asking, from aside from paying the normal living expenses, are there any other investments one should or could make upon returning home?
Yes. Oh, you can go ahead first.
No, I was to say, with the investments and stuff, I think if you have someone or an advisor that can advise you on that, on what, and it's kind of like what Bobby said before, is what's your risk factor. I personally don't do investments, play the stocks or anything, because I've lost a lot of money in it, and I know I'm not good at it. And the advice I've been getting, it's just not worth it for me, So that's just me. But Bobby, you might have a different opinion on it. But I think you need to talk to someone in that, an advisor in that, who's going to be able to help you.
Yeah, I would look at first thing is look at your employer sponsored plans. Look at what they're offering. Look at any offers that you have. And again, start with a financial advisor to go over it with you, because you have to have a plan in order to figure out, well, which investment should I get in? People can't say, oh, go into stocks, go into an IRA, do a Roth, etc. It really depends on what you're looking at. But one place to start would be your employer sponsored plan. The reason I say that is a lot of times your employer matches a certain percentage of what you put in there. So if your employer matches 6%, you put in of what you put in, it's not necessary. It's not free money, but you're getting a bonus on what you put in there. Look at, depending on your age, look at different retirement vehicles. Outside of that, it's a great time for to look at like IRAs, whether Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs. I love Roth IRAs because we don't know what the taxable environment is going to be going forward. It's a good chance it might be higher. So look at that and just think about getting you some tax efficiency when you retire. And I can go over that on the side if people want to contact me individually. And again, just look at like different savings plans that you have either with your bank. Very important, look at life insurance. Whether term life or whole life insurance. There have been some benefits to whole life insurance where you're building your cash balance. When you have that in most cases, and you can take without having to incur any taxes, or you can take a loan. Again, can't go into details of certain things, but these are certain things to look at when you're moving home. Because the thing is, the sooner you invest, the key is the sooner you invest, typically the better off you'll be, because you're giving yourself more of a time horizon to deal with any risk that you may incur. So that's just a general thing. So look at some other investments.
Okay, so
I just want to say one thing. Bobby touched on, like the life insurance and stuff. If you have life insurance, and I don't know if Bobby mentioned this earlier, if you have life insurance already and you're living overseas, you need to check with your carriers to make sure that they're going to honor that life insurance policy, because a lot of them don't, because they consider the UAE as the Middle East, a war zone, kind of. So that's something that you need to check into, because a lot of them, they would not cover you if something happens. A lot of people have USA. I had USA, and I was just paying them for years, and to find out that if something would happen, they wouldn't have paid my life insurance policy at that time. Mm-hmm. So check into that. If you have questions on it, you guys, Bobby or myself on that. If you have children, I always tell people, I mean, for $7 a day, I mean, it's $7 a month, you can cover your child with the policy for $25,000. You know, so you're looking at anywhere between $140, $120, $140 a year. If you can't spend that on your child, then something's not right. Yeah. Because that's something that we don't think about is our kids passing before we do. But it happens more often than we really think. It does. And it catches a lot of families off guard. And so that's just something when you mention insurance, I'm just saying.
Thank you guys for
it's the credit. Yeah. It's your credit. I don't know if you guys talked about it earlier, but you need to make sure your credit is up there. Because when you're coming back, I used to work with a South African guy, Chris, and I used to say, Chris, a black man with good credit is dangerous. It's dangerous. And we came back. We weren't working, but we were able to buy cars and do what we needed to do because our credit was good. So if you have issues with your credit, now's the time to start working on that.
Do you offer credit? You offer credit repair services, right?
I do. So you guys can go to the website. It's txpfs.com. And I'll put it in the chat box for you guys. But it lists all our services. But credit repair is something that I tell people they need to start early, because it's not going to happen overnight if you want to do it the right way. It's a process. So
if you need credit repair services, make sure you hit up Brother Rob. Brother Rob. Hit up Brother Rob. He's going to type his information down in the chat box for you all to have it. But the next question is also for you, Brother Rob. Sister Jania wants to know is, can she file her taxes from the previous year that you did not file? Can you make it up?
Yes. Yes, you can. Yeah. She can.
So is there a limit on the number of years back you can go, or you can just go back?
You can go back. You can go back as far as, I think I have software all the way back to 2005. So
okay, absolutely.
and if we need some past that, we can do that too. But you won't need anything past that. But yeah, you can go back and file.
And please do it. When I was a wealth manager over in Abu Dhabi, I had people that would debate me that you didn't have to file your taxes while being over there. And the thing is, like, no, you still need to file your taxes. You just probably aren't paying taxes. Just because it's a zero tax liability doesn't mean you shouldn't file. And as you touched on it, for those that filed their taxes, they got that stimulus check money. So just please do it so they take care of it.
Our next question.
Right, and if, I always tell people in Abu Dhabi, I always try to work with them because I know most of them aren't going to receive a refund. So there's no need to charge them arm and a leg to do their taxes and they're not receiving a refund, although y'all making the money. But I know y'all got it. But yeah, so yeah, I'm willing to work with that. And I tell people. This is my second year in business, and the people that have kept me in business is people from overseas. So
I guess that leads into the second question that Jania had was, do you think moving to a new city without a network and being an entrepreneur is a wise thing to do?
You know, for us, I knew I wasn't going to go back into education. Wherever I went, I knew I wasn't going back into education. I had plans. They got kind of messed up with Melissa, but you always have to have some type of backup plan. So, like you said, I have faith in God. I don't think He's going to lead me the wrong way. If He shuts one door, He'll open another door. All those great things is true. Everything we hear. So if you have the faith,
yes,
I think it'll work. I started out in a little place in the hood. It was like 400 square feet. Now I'm in a mall. I have over 2,500 square feet. And that's just a blessing from God, because it's like $200 difference. And so I just think if you're willing to put in the work, it has been stressful because I don't spend as much time as at home, because you are trying to build something. So you just have to put in the work, and it will work. I do believe that it will work if you put in the time and you believe in God, and that He's going to lead you the right way.
And yes, and
I'm sorry, Bob, because my first year in business, that first year, I didn't have not one client from San Antonio. Not one client that walked through my doors. I would be in our office every day, and nobody walked through those doors as a client. And it just built from there. So now I have clients, but the first year I was like, I just need enough to pay the rent and pay the utilities, and that's what I did. So it's gotten better. So yes, it can work. It can work. Am I making $500,000 yet? No, but I'm working towards it. Just working towards it. So.
I know both of you guys personally, both from being members of Love and Grace and then transitioning back to the States. And I can say that both of you transitioned and went home, and you each was successful in your transitional journey. Robert, even what you saying that you didn't have anyone from San Antonio, you definitely had networked, and you had enough people. You had built enough relationships. I tell people all the time, networking is the key. You build those relationships, no matter where you go. When you start moving and you start changing, you always can reach out to someone, and creating those networks is always the way to go. So I would say for with the journey of going back home, whether it's to start your own business or even going back into the school system or whatever it is that you're going to do, is use your network. Reach out to that network before you go home. Start doing that prep work, speaking to them, calling them, hey, I'm coming home, kind of just to get your ear, in the wind, just to hear what's going on and kind of get a feel, so that when you're making a decision, you can make a decision based on information and not just what I want to do. Because sometimes what we want to do and what is the right thing to do is not always the best thing to do. And they don't always marry. So we need to make sure that when we use our network to build information. And both of you, I can say as your pastor, I'm so very proud of both of you in the journey and the transition that you guys have made home. And I can definitely say that I'm proud of you. And I want to leave with this. I want to tell you that first in the chat, everyone is saying thank you. They appreciate information that you shared. What I want to leave with is you guys closing out with any final thing that you want to share, final words, final thoughts. I'm leaving with you. Bobby, you go first. And Rob, while Bobby is going, if you don't mind, could you please in the chat, could you please type your website as well as your contact information for people to reach out to you. And then Bobby, you'll do the same after when Rob is talking, okay?
All right.
I think we did, but it comes up, I can only type in the private part. So I guess, I don't know if everyone can see it. I know Bobby put his information.
Okay, if you can only type, okay, so if you can only type in, just type it in the private part, then I'll copy it and paste it into the regular chat.
Okay, it's there.
All right, cool. And Brother Bobby, you're up first.
Okay. Main thing is have a plan and have faith. Don't be afraid to do something new. You moved overseas and you took that step to do something which I'm pretty sure most people, you're the first person in your family to do something like that. When you're moving home, have that same courage. You don't have to move to where you're from. I'm actually from Charlotte and we moved to Atlanta. So, just have that courage, have the faith, make a plan, speak to a financial advisor. You don't have one? Call me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Robert, final thoughts from you?
Just to piggyback off of what Bobby said, make sure you have some type of plan. Don't be caught off guard because any day is deportation day in the UAE. Like I said, save up some money, have some money because you don't want to come back not having anything. And if you need some help with your taxes, insurance, credit repair, whatever it may be, or anything else, just to talk, whatever, please let me know, and I'm willing to be here to assist you with that. But it's still America is nothing like home. As much as we might love and live overseas, it's still, to me, is nothing like being home with all our challenges and problems that we have here. It's still good to be home. Thank
you, Rob. So everybody, if you look on the screen, this is Rob's website information, txpfs.com. And I know someone had put in the chat that we're asking for credit information and to get to the credit for the website for the credit. So here it's here. This is his website.
There's a link on here also, yes.
And then for Bobby, let's see, I'm changing screens again. And for Bobby, here's his email address. And if you want to speak for Bobby, this is his email address where you can reach him. I'm also going to put them both in the chat box in the comment section so that you can have them directly.
And if any of you do need help with your retirement plans or your insurance policies, please feel free to reach out for me. I will review them for you, help you talk over it. It's for free. It's no charge, just to help you out with that.
Okay. With that, I would like to say thank you both for joining me tonight for my first live video, for my first video for Empowering Through Knowledge. I want to thank you both, Robert Carter and Robert McDonald, for joining me today. You've shared a wealth of information that I'm sure that everyone who is watching now and those who will watch later will be able to take and use to prepare themselves for that journey back to the state. And for that, I thank you. For everyone else that is watching, I would like to say thank you for joining me. I invite you again to come back and join me again in January, where we'll be talking about kicking off the year right. We'll be talking about our finances, mental health, as well as our own personal growth to start off the year well. So everyone have an absolutely blessed day. I thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.